On Thanksgiving evening, my daughter-in-law Monica stood up in front of 17 family members and said, "Eleanor, it's time you moved to assisted living. We've already found you a place. You'll leave Sunday. That gives you 72 hours to pack." I'm Eleanor Margaret Wright, and I'm 68 years old. I looked at her across the table. I looked at my son Richard, who wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at my two grandchildren, Danny and Valerie, who stared at their plates. Then I picked up my wine glass, took a sip, and said, "Okay." Everyone went silent. Monica blinked. "What?" "I said okay," I repeated calmly. "Sunday works fine." I set down my glass, folded my napkin, and excused myself from the table. That was 4 weeks ago. And what Monica didn't know, what nobody at that table knew, was that my late husband Thomas had prepared for exactly this moment. He'd seen it coming 3 years before he died. He'd protected me in ways I didn't discover until I had nothing left but an old bank card I'd found in a jewelry box. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end. Because what happened next changed everything. Let me take you back so you understand how I got here. My name is Eleanor Margaret Wright. I was born Eleanor Hayes in a small town in rural Pennsylvania, the youngest of 3 daughters. My father ran a hardware store. My mother was a school teacher. We weren't wealthy, but we were loved. I met Thomas Wright when I was 23 years old. He came into the accounting firm where I worked as a junior bookkeeper. He was 28, already running his own construction supply company with 1 warehouse and big dreams. He asked me to help him organize his business finances. I said yes. 6 months later, he asked me to marry him. I said yes to that too. We had a simple wedding at the Presbyterian church, 40 guests, homemade cake, my mother's pearl necklace as my something borrowed. Thomas wore a suit he'd owned since college. We honeymooned for 3 days at a cabin his uncle owned in the Poconos. It was perfect. Thomas worked constantly in those early years. I kept the books, managed the accounts receivable, negotiated with suppliers. We were a team. By the time we'd been married 5 years, we had 3 warehouses. By 10 years, we had locations across 4 states. By 15 years, Thomas Wright Supply Company was worth $8 million. We had 1 child, Richard Thomas Wright, born when I was 30 years old. He was a beautiful baby, 10 pounds, 2 ounces, with Thomas's dark eyes and my father's chin. I loved him completely. That was my first mistake. Richard grew up with everything Thomas and I never had. Private schools, summer camps in Vermont, piano lessons, tennis lessons, swimming lessons, a car for his 16th birthday, a used Honda Civic that he complained wasn't new enough, college at a private university that cost $48,000 a year. Thomas said we were spoiling him. I said we were giving him opportunities. I was wrong. Richard graduated with a business degree at 22. He worked for the family company for exactly 6 months before he quit, saying he needed to find his own path. His path included working at a tech startup, lasted 4 months. Starting a consulting business, lasted 7 months. Becoming a real estate agent, lasted 11 months. Managing a restaurant, lasted 2 months. Each time he quit, he had an excuse. Bad boss, toxic environment, not his passion, underpaid. Each time we gave him money to get back on his feet. Thomas told me we needed to stop. I said just one more time. That was my second mistake. Richard met Monica Chen at a networking event when he was 32. She was 29, worked in pharmaceutical sales, and had the kind of polished beauty that came from expensive salons and designer clothes. The first time Richard brought her to dinner, she complimented everything. The house, the meal, my necklace, my hair. It felt rehearsed. After they left, Thomas said, "That woman is calculating." "Don't be judgmental," I told him. "She's nervous." "Eleanor," he said, looking at me seriously, "that woman sees dollar signs." I told him he was being unfair, that he should give her a chance. That was my third mistake. They were engaged 4 months later, married 6 months after that. The wedding cost $97,000, paid for by us, of course. 300 guests, string quartet, ice sculpture, open bar, honeymoon in Bali. Monica wanted to quit her job after the wedding. "To focus on starting a family," she said. Richard agreed. "Mom, can you help us out until my business takes off?" His business was a vague consulting thing that never produced a single client. I wrote them a check for $5,000 a month. Just temporarily, I said. That temporarily lasted 9 years. 2 years into Richard and Monica's marriage, they had their first child, Danny. I fell in love the moment I saw him. Then came Valerie, 2 years later. I thought becoming a father would change Richard, make him responsible, motivated. It didn't. Monica stayed home with the children. Richard's consulting business remained non-existent. The $5,000 a month became $8,000, then $10,000, then $12,000, plus emergencies. New car repair, $4,000. Roof repair, $8,000. Private school tuition, $24,000 per year per child. Christmas. Just $3,000, Mom, for the kids' gifts. Thomas and I paid it all. Then, 3 weeks after Valerie's 3rd birthday, Thomas collapsed at work. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. The doctors gave him 6 to 12 months. He lived for 14 months. 14 months of fighting, suffering, diminishing. 14 months of watching the strongest man I'd ever known become fragile. Richard and Monica visited twice in the first month. After that, the visits became sporadic. They were always so busy with the kids' activities. Danny had soccer. Valerie had ballet. Monica had a headache. Richard had a meeting. Thomas never complained. But I saw the hurt in his eyes every time I told him they couldn't make it. The last night Thomas was truly conscious, he held my hand. His grip was weak, but his eyes were clear. "Eleanor," he whispered, "I need to tell you something important." "What, darling?" "When I'm gone, Richard and Monica are going to come for everything. They're going to try to take it all." "Thomas, listen to me." His voice was urgent despite its weakness. "I've prepared for this. I've protected you. But you have to be smart. You have to be stronger than your love for Richard." "What are you talking about?" "There's an account, a private account. Only you can access it." He squeezed my hand. "The card is in the jewelry box, the red velvet one, your mother's jewelry box. The pin is our anniversary, 0617. "Thomas, I don't understand." "You will. When you need it, you'll understand everything." He closed his eyes. The next morning he slipped into a coma. He died 37 hours later, on November 15th, at 3:42 in the morning, with me holding his hand. Richard and Monica arrived 40 minutes after he passed. Monica cried dramatically. Richard stood frozen. The kids looked confused. I was numb. The funeral was large. Over 200 people came. Business associates, employees, friends, family. Richard delivered the eulogy. He cried. He talked about what a great father Thomas had been, how much he'd learned from him, how much he'd miss him. It sounded sincere. Maybe it was in that moment. After the funeral, I moved through life in a fog. The house felt enormous and empty. Every room reminded me of Thomas, his coffee mug in the cupboard, his reading glasses on the nightstand, his coat still hanging by the door. I couldn't sleep in our bedroom. I moved to the guest room. The business continued running. Thomas had excellent managers, people he'd mentored for years. They handled everything while I processed my grief. Richard started calling more often. "Just checking on you, Mom." Monica, too. "Mother Eleanor, you shouldn't be alone in that big house." At first, I was touched by their concern. Then Richard suggested, "Why don't you come stay with us for a while, just until you feel better?" I said I needed my space to grieve. He persisted. "Mom, we're worried about you. That house is too much." "You're rattling around in there alone," Monica added. "The kids miss their grandmother. They'd love to have you close." 2 months after Thomas died, they increased the pressure. "Mom, we've been thinking. Why don't you sell that house? It's too big. Too many memories. You could buy a nice condo, something manageable." I said I wasn't ready. "Or," Monica said sweetly, "you could move in with us. We have that extra bedroom. You'd be with family." 4 months after Thomas died, I finally agreed. Not because I wanted to, but because the loneliness was crushing me, because I missed Danny and Valerie, because I thought being near family would help me heal. I sold the house I'd lived in for 38 years, the house where Richard had grown up, where I'd kissed Thomas goodbye every morning, where we'd celebrated every Christmas and birthday. I sold it for $847,000 and moved into Richard and Monica's home in the suburbs. A home, by the way, that I'd helped them buy 6 years earlier with a $200,000 down payment. At first, everything seemed fine. Danny and Valerie were delighted. We read books together. I helped with homework. I took them to the park on weekends. Richard seemed attentive. "How are you feeling, Mom? Do you need anything?" Monica cooked elaborate meals. "Mother Eleanor, I made your favorite, pot roast." But subtle things began to change. Week 2, Monica asked me to contribute to groceries. "Just $300 a week. You're eating here too, after all." I gave her $400. "Get something nice for the kids." Week 3, Monica mentioned the property taxes were due. "It's $12,000. We're a little short this month." I paid it. Week 4, Richard needed a new car. "The Honda is dying, Mom. I need something reliable for client meetings." There were no clients. There never had been clients. But I co-signed for a $52,000 BMW. Month 2, Monica established house guidelines. "Mother Eleanor, I just cleaned the living room. Could you use the den instead?" "The kitchen is off limits after dinner. I can't have it getting messy again." "Please keep your bathroom door closed. The kids shouldn't see older people's things." "Could you not have friends over? It's disrupting the children's routine." Richard said nothing when she imposed these rules. When I tried to talk to him privately, he said, "Mom, Monica's stressed. She's managing a lot. Can you just cooperate?" Cooperate. I was paying their mortgage, their car payments, their children's school tuition, their groceries, their utilities, but I needed to cooperate. Month 3, the treatment became more obvious. Monica stopped saying please. She started sighing when I spoke. If I offered to help with dinner, she'd say, "I have a system, Mother Eleanor. You'll just slow me down." If I suggested an outing with the grandkids, she'd say, "They're too busy. They have activities." Richard spent his time on his phone or watching television. When I tried to discuss the family business, which I technically still owned 70% of, he'd say, "Later, Mom. I'm tired." Danny and Valerie started pulling away. When I'd reach to hug Danny, he'd slip away. Valerie stopped asking me to read to her. I saw Monica whispering to them, saw them nod, saw the way they looked at me change from love to tolerance. Month 4, I heard Monica on the phone with someone. I wasn't eavesdropping. I was walking past the kitchen and the door was open. "No, Mother, it won't be long now," she said. "She's old. She's sad. People like that don't last. And when she's gone, Richard gets everything. Yes, I'm working on the will situation. I almost had her sign last week, but she wanted to read it first. Can you believe it? Like she doesn't trust her own son. I know, but we'll get there. Once she signs, we're set." I stood frozen in the hallway. My daughter-in-law was planning for my death, celebrating it even. That night, I tried to talk to Richard. "Son, I need to discuss something serious with you." "Not now, Mom." "Richard, it's important. It's about the business, about finances." He exploded. "God, Mom, do you ever stop? It's always money with you, always control. Dad's gone, okay? His company, his rules, his way of doing things. It's over." "Richard, no, I'm tired of it. You sitting here, judging us, acting like we owe you something. We took you in. We gave you a home. And all you do is—" "Richard Thomas Wright, I have never—" Monica appeared. "Mother Eleanor, Richard's under a lot of stress. Maybe give him some space?" Her smile was poisonous. I went to my room. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I decided to review my finances. I needed to understand exactly what I had, what Richard had access to, and what needed to change. I went to my room where I kept important documents in a locked briefcase. The lock was broken. The briefcase was open. Papers were scattered, clearly searched through. Missing: my passport, my driver's license, the deed to a property in Vermont, a vacation house worth $420,000, stock certificates worth approximately $340,000, 3 months of bank statements. Present: an opened envelope with a document inside. I pulled it out. It was a power of attorney form, already filled out, granting Richard complete authority over all my financial affairs, medical decisions, and property. It needed only my signature. My hands shook as I held it. I went downstairs. Richard and Monica were in the kitchen. "Someone went through my private documents. I said. Monica looked up, surprised. What? My briefcase was broken into. Papers are missing. Mom, you're confused, Richard said without looking up from his phone. You probably forgot where you put them. I know exactly where I put them, and I know what's missing. Monica stood. Mother Eleanor, you're getting older. Memory issues are normal. Maybe you misplaced. I didn't misplace my passport and my driver's license. Richard finally looked at me. Are you accusing us of stealing? I'm stating facts. My documents are gone. Monica's voice turned cold. This is what we're talking about, Richard. This paranoia. This hostility. She's not well. I am perfectly well. Are you? Monica tilted her head. You barely sleep. You forget conversations. Last week you asked me the same question 3 times. You left the stove on twice. I have never... Richard had to turn it off. Didn't you, honey? Richard nodded. Yeah, Mom. Twice. They were lying. I knew they were lying. But they said it with such conviction, such united certainty, that for a moment I questioned myself. Was I forgetting things? No, I wasn't. This was deliberate, strategic. I looked at my son, the boy I'd rocked to sleep, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose college tuition I'd paid, whose every need I'd met for 38 years. He looked back at me with cold, calculating eyes. My son was gone. This stranger had taken his place. Or maybe this stranger had always been there, and I'd refused to see it. Which brings us to Thanksgiving. Monica insisted on hosting. Family tradition, she said. Mother Eleanor, you just relax. I'll handle everything. She invited her parents, Arthur and Susan Chen, her brother George and his wife Melissa, her sister Patricia, and her husband David Richards' childhood friend Marcus and his wife, 3 neighbors, her book club friend Jennifer, 17 people total. I offered to help cook. Monica said, "You just get in the way." I offered to set the table. Monica said, "I have a specific vision." I offered to make my famous pumpkin pie, the one Thomas had loved, the one I'd made every Thanksgiving for 40 years. Monica said, "I already ordered desserts from the bakery." So I sat in my room until dinner, feeling like a ghost in what used to feel like my family. At 6 p.m. I came down. The dining room looked beautiful. Monica had gone all out. Fine china, crystal glasses, elaborate centerpiece. I sat at the far end of the table next to Patricia, who smiled politely and then turned to talk to her husband. Monica sat at the head, Richard at the other end, Danny and Valerie in the middle, flanked by Monica's parents. We were 15 minutes into the meal when Monica stood up. She tapped her wine glass with a fork. "Everyone, can I have your attention, please?" The room quieted. "I want to thank you all for being here," Monica began. "Family is so important to Richard and me. It's the foundation of everything." People nodded, smiled. "Which is why this is so difficult to say." She paused for effect. "Richard and I have been struggling with a situation for several months now. We've tried to handle it privately, but we've reached a point where we need support and witnesses." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Monica turned to look at me. "Mother Eleanor has been living with us for 7 months. We welcomed her with open hearts after Thomas passed. We gave her a room. We included her in our family. We've tried to make her feel loved." Past tense. Everything past tense. But it's become clear that this arrangement isn't working. Mother Eleanor has become difficult, paranoid. She accuses us of stealing. She forgets conversations and then claims we're lying. She's inappropriate with the children. "That's not true," I said quietly. "See?" Monica gestured at me. "This defensiveness, this hostility, it's constant." Richard spoke up. "Mom, you're not yourself. You haven't been since Dad died." "We think," Monica continued, "that you need professional care, the kind we can't provide here." "We've found an excellent assisted living facility," Richard added. "Legacy Gardens. It's only 20 minutes away. They have round-the-clock care, activities, everything you'd need." "We've already toured it," Monica said. "We've spoken with the director. There's an opening." I looked around the table, 17 faces staring at me. Some looked sympathetic, some looked curious. Monica's mother looked smug. "You're kicking me out," I said. "We're getting you the help you need," Monica corrected. "I don't need help. I need my son to stop stealing from me. Gasps around the table. Richard's face flushed red. Mom, your mother is clearly unwell, Arthur Chen said. Monica, Richard, you're doing the right thing. When do I leave? I asked. Sunday, Monica said. That gives you 72 hours to pack. We'll help you move. I looked at Richard. You agree with this? He wouldn't meet my eyes. It's for the best, Mom. I looked at Danny and Valerie. They were staring at their plates. Then I looked back at Monica, who was watching me with barely concealed triumph. And I remembered Thomas's words. You have to be stronger than your love for Richard. I picked up my wine glass, took a sip. Okay, I said. Monica blinked. What? I said okay, Sunday works fine. Confusion rippled through the room. You're agreeing? Richard said. Yes. Just like that? Just like that. I set down my glass. May I be excused? Without waiting for an answer, I stood, folded my napkin, and walked upstairs. Behind me, I heard confused murmuring. I heard Monica say, Well, that was easier than expected. I went to my room, closed the door, locked it. And then I opened this bottom drawer of the dresser where I kept Thomas's things. His watch, his cufflinks, his wedding ring, and a red velvet jewelry box, my mother's jewelry box, the one I'd had since I was 16. I opened it. Inside, beneath my grandmother's pearls and my mother's engagement ring, was a bank card. A Visa card with my name, Eleanor Margaret Wright, an account I didn't remember opening. I pulled it out. On the back, in Thomas's handwriting, were 4 numbers, 0617. Our anniversary, June 17th. I sat on the edge of the bed holding that card, and I heard Thomas's voice in my memory. I've protected you, but you have to be smart. You have to be stronger than your love for Richard. Tomorrow, I would go to the bank. Tomorrow, I would learn what Thomas had prepared. Tomorrow, I would start fighting back. But tonight, I packed my bags in silence while 17 people downstairs celebrated my exile. And I smiled, because what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly imagine, was that Eleanor Margaret Wright had been keeping books and managing finances since she was 23 years old, and I was about to audit my own life. Sunday morning came quiet and cold. I woke at 5:47 a.m. in the guest bedroom that had been my prison for 7 months. Through the window I could see frost on the grass, the last stubborn leaves clinging to the oak tree Thomas had planted when Richard was born. I'd packed 3 suitcases. Not everything, just what mattered. Clothes, toiletries, photos of Thomas. My mother's jewelry box with the mysterious bank card inside. I left behind the furniture I'd brought from my old house. The antique dresser, the reading chair, the lamp Thomas bought me for our 20th anniversary. Monica could have it all. At 7 a.m., I heard movement downstairs. Footsteps, the coffee maker. I waited. At 8:15 a.m., a knock on my door. Mom? Richard's voice. The movers are here. I don't need movers, I called back. I can manage. Monica hired them. They're here to help. Help, sure. I opened the door. Richard stood there, unshaven, in sweatpants and an old t-shirt. He couldn't meet my eyes. Where are you going? He asked. The Crossroads Inn, downtown. I booked a room. That's a hotel, Mom. You can't live in a hotel. It's temporary, until I figure things out. About that. He shifted his weight. We need to talk about finances. Do we? Yeah, you're on your own now. You'll need to budget. I looked at your accounts. You looked at my accounts? Dad gave me access years ago, for emergencies. Anyway, you've got about $43,000 in checking, maybe another $70,000 in savings. That's not much. You'll burn through that in a year, maybe less if you're not careful. He was telling me how much money I had. Money I'd earned. Money Thomas and I had saved. And he was telling me it wasn't much. I'll manage, I said. Mom, be realistic. You never worked. You don't understand how expensive things are. I kept your father's books for 35 years. That's not the same as Richard. I looked at him directly. I'm leaving now. Please move aside. He stepped back. I carried my suitcases downstairs. 2 men in moving company uniforms stood in the living room. Monica was directing them, wearing yoga pants and a cashmere sweater that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Mother Eleanor, she approached with a sad smile. I'm so sorry it came to this. but you'll be happier. You'll see. Legacy Gardens has wonderful activities. Bingo on Tuesdays. I'm not going to Legacy Gardens. Her smile froze. What? I'm staying at a hotel. I'll find my own place. But we already... Richard, she can't just... She's an adult, Monica. Richard's voice was flat. She can do what she wants. I looked at my son one last time. Goodbye, Richard. I walked out. Behind me, I heard Monica hiss, Aren't you going to stop her? I didn't hear his response. I loaded my suitcases into my 2014 Toyota Camry, paid for in full, titled in my name, one of the few things completely mine. I drove away from that house and didn't look back. The Crossroads Inn was exactly what you'd expect. Budget hotel, clean but worn, $89 per night. I checked in, hauled my suitcases to room 237, and sat on the bed. The silence was profound. No Monica sighing in the kitchen. No Richard ignoring me in the living room. No tiptoeing around rules in my own life. Just silence, and Thomas's bank card in my hand. I turned it over. The numbers on the back, 0617. I didn't even know what bank it was from. The card just said Visa, with a phone number for customer service. I could call them. But something told me I needed to see this in person. At 2:30 p.m., I drove downtown to the First National Bank, the same bank where Thomas and I had done business for 40 years. I parked, walked inside. The lobby was quiet, just a few customers at the teller windows. I approached a customer service representative, a young woman with kind eyes and a name tag that read Jessica. "Hi," I said. "I need help with an account." "Of course. Do you have the account number?" "I have this." I showed her the card. She took it, scanned it, and her expression changed. "Oh, this is... Let me get my manager. One moment, please." She disappeared into a back office. I waited. 5 minutes later, a man emerged. Mid-50s, gray hair, expensive suit. His name tag read Marcus Chen, branch manager. Chen, Monica's maiden name. "Mrs. Wright?" he said. "Please come to my office." I followed him to a private room. Glass walls, mahogany desk, diplomas on the wall. He closed the door, sat down, looked at me carefully. "Mrs. Wright, I need to verify your identity. Do you have ID?" They took my driver's license, but I have my Medicare card, my Social Security card, and a utility bill with my old address. I'd been smart enough to keep those in my purse, not in the briefcase Richard had ransacked. Marcus examined them carefully, took copies, typed on his computer. Then he sat back. "Mrs. Wright, this account was opened by your late husband, Thomas Wright, 7 years ago. He named you as the sole beneficiary and account holder, but with specific instructions." "What kind of instructions?" "The account was to remain sealed until you personally came to this branch and requested access. He said you'd know when the time was right." Marcus paused. "He also left a letter for you. I've been holding it since he passed." My throat tightened. "A letter?" Marcus pulled an envelope from a locked drawer, heavy cream paper, my name in Thomas's handwriting. I took it with shaking hands. "Would you like privacy to read it?" Marcus asked. "Please." He left. I opened the envelope. "My dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, it means what I feared has happened. Richard has shown his true colors. Monica has revealed her intentions, and you found yourself with nowhere to turn. First, know this. None of this is your fault. You loved our son the way a mother should. You gave him everything because you have a generous heart. But generosity without boundaries becomes exploitation. And Richard learned to exploit. I saw it years ago. The entitlement, the lack of gratitude, the way he looked at our business not as something to build, but as something to inherit. Monica accelerated it, but the seeds were always there. I tried to tell you. You weren't ready to hear it. So I prepared for this day. This account contains $2,847,000. I transferred it quietly over 5 years, from business profits, investments, and assets I liquidated without Richard's knowledge. It is yours, not the family's, not Richard's, yours. Additionally, the Vermont property, 847 Maple Ridge Road, is in a trust. Only your name. Richard cannot touch it. My life insurance, $1.5 million, went into a separate account. Account number 7743882144490. Only you can access it. The business stock you own together with Richard? You actually own 87%. I restructured it quietly. He owns 13%. The documents are in safety deposit box 428 at this bank. Eleanor, you are not powerless. You are not dependent. You are not the helpless widow they think you are. You are a woman who built a business alongside her husband for 35 years. You are smarter than Richard. You are stronger than Monica, and you have resources they don't know about. Use them, protect yourself, and don't let guilt make you weak. I love you, Eleanor. I will always love you. But I love you too much to leave you vulnerable. Fight back. Yours always, Thomas. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully, put it back in the envelope, and pressed it to my chest. Thomas had seen it all, had known, had protected me even after death. Marcus knocked softly. Mrs. Wright? Come in. He sat down. Did you want to review the account details? Yes. He pulled up screens, showed me statements going back 7 years. Monthly deposits, $15,000, $22,000, $35,000, varying amounts, always different sources. Current balance, $2,847,293.17. I stared at the number. I had nearly $3 million, and Richard thought I had $113,000. Mrs. Wright, Marcus said gently, Thomas also left instructions that I'm to provide you with any banking assistance you need. Financial planning, legal referrals, account protection, whatever you need. I need to understand what my son has access to. Let's pull up all your accounts. Over the next hour, Marcus and I reviewed everything. What I discovered made my blood run cold. Monday, November 27th, I sat in my hotel room with a legal pad and the statements Marcus had printed for me. Thomas's secret account, $2,847,293.17. Richard had no access. Life insurance account, $1,512,000. Richard had no access. Checking account, joint with Richard, $43,287.13. Richard had full access. Savings account, joint with Richard, $78,442.09. Richard had full access. Business account, $127,568.23. Richard had signatory rights. My stomach turned as I traced the transactions. In the 7 months I'd lived with Richard and Monica, Richard had withdrawn. From checking, August 15th, $12,000, home repairs. September 3rd, $8,500, car insurance. September 18th, $15,000, kids' school supplies and tuition. October 7th, $22,000, property tax. October 29th, $18,500, emergency medical. November 12th, $9,200, Thanksgiving expenses. Total, $85,200 in 3 months. From savings, August 22nd, $25,000, investment opportunity. October 15th, $30,000, house down payment for investment property. Total, $55,000, from business account. September 10th, $35,000, operational costs. November 1st, $28,000, equipment purchase. Total, $63,000, grand total stolen in 7 months, $203,200, and I'd authorized none of it. I called Marcus. Can you tell me what purchases were made with these withdrawals? I can get you detailed records. Give me until Wednesday. Wednesday, November 29th, Marcus called. Mrs. Wright, I have those transaction details. Can you come in? I drove to the bank. Marcus had printed a 47-page report. This is going to upset you, he warned. He was right. The $12,000 home repair? Actually, $8,200 to Tiffany & Company, $3,800 to Nordstrom. The $15,000 school tuition? Actually, $15,000 wire transfer to Premier Auto Sales. They'd bought a second car. The $25,000 investment opportunity? Actually, $25,000 to Seabreeze Vacation Rentals, a timeshare in Hilton Head. The $30,000 house down payment? Actually, $12,000 to Luxury Renovations, Inc., kitchen remodel, $18,000 to Blue Sky Travel, Tahiti vacation package. Every single withdrawal was a lie. There's more, Marcus said quietly. I pulled records going back 3 years. Would you like to see them? Yes. Total stolen over 3 years. $547,830. $500,000. Gone. While I'd trusted my son. While I'd written checks. While I'd believed we were family. I sat in Marcus's office and felt something shift inside me. Not grief, not anymore. Rage. Cold, calculated rage. Marcus, I said, I need a lawyer. The best one you know. Marcus recommended Patricia Donovan of Donovan & Associates, a family law and estate attorney with 25 years of experience. I met with her Friday, December 1st. Patricia was 62, silver hair, sharp eyes, expensive but understated suit. I laid out everything: the theft, the manipulation, the Thanksgiving exile, Thomas's letter, the bank statements. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, Mrs. Wright, what do you want? I want my money back. All of it. Criminal charges? I hesitated. He's still my son. Mrs. Wright, he stole over $500,000 from you. He manipulated you. He planned to have you declared incompetent. This isn't a family squabble. This is elder financial abuse. It's a crime. What are my options? Civil lawsuit to recover funds. High success rate based on this evidence. Criminal complaint for theft and fraud. The DA would likely prosecute. Restraining order to prevent further contact. And we restructure everything. Revoke his access. Change your will. Protect your assets. How long? Civil case? 6 to 12 months. Criminal? Could be longer. But we can freeze his access to your accounts immediately. Do it. Patricia made calls while I sat there. By 4 p.m., all joint accounts frozen. Richard's signatory rights on business account revoked. Emergency hearing scheduled for Tuesday, December 5th for temporary restraining order. Forensic accountant hired to document full scope of theft. Mrs. Wright, Patricia said, this is going to get ugly. Richard will retaliate. Monica will create a scene. Are you prepared? I'm prepared. What I didn't tell her was that I was also heartbroken. Because even with all the evidence, part of me still hoped I was wrong. Part of me still hoped my son had some explanation. That hope died on Monday, December 4th. Patricia recommended someone else. If we're building a case, we need the complete picture. I know a private investigator, former FBI, very discreet. She can find out what they're really doing. The investigator's name was Sharon Reeves. She met me at a coffee shop Monday morning. Mrs. Wright, I need to know what you're looking for, Sharon said. The truth. Where did my money actually go? Understood. I'll need 1 week. 1 week later, Monday, December 11th, Sharon returned with a manila folder 3 inches thick. You should sit down, she said. We met in Patricia's office. Sharon opened the folder. Let's start with the basics. Your son Richard doesn't work. Hasn't had a real job in 8 years. Monica quit pharmaceutical sales 9 years ago. Neither has employment income. I knew that. Their house, the one you helped buy with a $200,000 down payment in 2018, current value, $680,000. Mortgage remaining, $287,000. They've taken out 2 home equity loans totaling $95,000. What? Both loans taken in the last 18 months. The money went to... Sharon laid out photographs. Richard and Monica at a resort in Cabo San Lucas. March 2023. Cost $14,500. Richard picking up a woman in a red dress at an upscale restaurant. April 2023. The same woman at Richard's BMW dealership when he bought the car. She signed paperwork too. Who is she? I asked. Vanessa Palmer, age 28. Richard's been seeing her for approximately 16 months. Sharon laid out more photos. Richard and Vanessa entering a condo building. May 2023. Richard and Vanessa at a jewelry store. June 2023. Richard and Vanessa at the beach. August 2023. He bought her a condo, Sharon said. Or rather, you did. He used $83,000 of the money withdrawn from your accounts for the down payment. Monthly mortgage and HOA fees, $2,200. He pays it from your accounts. I couldn't breathe. There's more. Monica doesn't know about Vanessa, but Monica has her own secrets. Sharon showed me different photographs. Monica at a country club, playing tennis, having lunch. She joined Oak Hills Country Club. Membership $15,000 per year, plus monthly dues of $850. Charged to your business account. More photos. Monica shopping. Designer bags. Jewelry. Spa days. In the past year, Monica has spent approximately $127,000 on personal luxuries, all from your accounts. Sharon paused. And then there's her brother. George? George Chen, age 42, criminal record, fraud, embezzlement. Served 3 years in federal prison, released 2019. She showed me a prison photo. George has been advising Monica on financial matters, specifically on how to access your assets. I found text messages. Sharon handed me printed screenshots. Monica to George, October 15th. She won't sign the POA. Says she wants her lawyer to review it first. George to Monica. Then we go plan B. Get her declared incompetent. I know a doctor who'll sign off for $5,000. Monica to George, November 10th. Richard's getting cold feet. Thinks we should wait. George. He's weak. You need to push harder. Once she's in the nursing home, you file for guardianship. She'll have no say. Monica. What if she fights it? George. Old woman, recently widowed, living with grieving son. No judge will side with her. Trust me, I've seen it work. I felt sick. My own daughter-in-law, plotting with a convicted felon, to lock me away, to steal everything. There's one more thing, Sharon said quietly. The assisted living facility they wanted you to go to? Legacy Gardens? Yes? It's not a nursing home. It's a memory care lockdown facility for dementia patients. Once you're admitted, you can't leave without a guardian's permission. The room spun. They were going to lock me up, I whispered. Patricia leaned forward. Mrs. Wright, this is criminal conspiracy. This is attempted illegal confinement. This goes beyond theft. These are serious felonies. What do? We go to the police. Today. We file a criminal complaint. We get a restraining order. And we make sure they never get near you again. I looked at the photos of Richard with his mistress. At Monica's shopping sprees bought with my money. At George's text messages planning my imprisonment. At my son, my only son, who had looked me in the eye and called me paranoid while he stole my life. Do it, I said. File everything. I want them prosecuted. All of them. Patricia nodded. We'll need you to make a statement to the police. Are you ready? I thought of Thomas's letter. Fight back. I thought of Thanksgiving dinner, 17 people watching as Monica exiled me from my own family. I thought of 7 months of being treated like a burden in a house I'd helped buy. I'm ready. Friday, December 15th, I sat in an interview room at the police station. Detective Maria Santos, Financial Crimes Unit, sat across from me with a recorder. Mrs. Wright, in your own words, please tell me what happened. I told her everything. It took 2 hours. She took notes, asked clarifying questions, examined the documents Sharon and Patricia had compiled. At the end, she sat back. Mrs. Wright, what you're describing is textbook elder financial abuse. Based on the evidence, the bank statements, the text messages, the documented lies, I believe we have grounds for multiple charges. Against who? Richard Wright. Theft, fraud, exploitation of an elderly person. Monica Wright. Conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted illegal confinement. George Chen. Conspiracy fraud, and he's a felon, so this could be a parole violation. What happens now? I submit this to the district attorney. Given the amount involved, over $500,000, and the vulnerability of the victim, this will be prosecuted. The DA will likely file charges within 2 weeks. Will they know it was me? They'll know when they're served with the complaint. Are you safe? Do they know where you're staying? No. Keep it that way. Do you have the restraining order hearing Tuesday? Yes. Good. Judge Martinez is fair. She'll see this for what it is. I left the police station feeling strange. Not victorious, not relieved, just sad. Because in fighting for my dignity, I was destroying my family. But then again, they destroyed it first. Saturday, December 16th. I returned to First National Bank and asked Marcus about safety deposit box 428, the one Thomas had mentioned in his letter. Of course, Mrs. Wright. You're listed as the sole key holder. He led me to the vault, used his key and mine to open box 428. Inside, 1. A revised will, dated January 2020, witnessed and notarized. It left everything to me. Richard was mentioned only to specifically disinherit him due to his financial irresponsibility and exploitation. 2. A complete restructuring of Wright Supply Company ownership. Eleanor Wright, 87%. Richard Wright, 13%. Signed and filed with the Secretary of State, February 2023. A trust document placing the Vermont property solely in my name. 4. Letters of recommendation from Thomas's business partners, attesting to my financial acumen and role in building the company. 5. A handwritten note. Eleanor, Richard will tell you that you never worked, that you don't understand business, that you were just my wife. These documents prove otherwise. You were my partner, my equal, my better half in every sense. Don't let him rewrite our history. I sat in the vault, surrounded by proof of my worth, and cried. Not from sadness, from gratitude. Thomas had known. He'd documented it all. He'd protected me even when I wouldn't protect myself. I gathered the documents and left. Tuesday, December 19th, I would face Richard in court for the restraining order hearing, and I would show him exactly who Eleanor Margaret Wright was. Not a helpless widow, not a confused old woman, but a businesswoman who'd built a company worth millions, who'd managed finances for 35 years, who'd been quietly documenting his betrayal while he thought she was weak. Richard wanted to take everything from me. Instead, he was about to lose everything himself, and I was just getting started. Tuesday, December 19th, 9 a.m. I sat in the courtroom beside Patricia Donovan, wearing my navy blue suit, the one I used to wear to business meetings when Thomas and I ran the company together. My hair was neat, my makeup understated, my hands steady. Across the aisle sat Richard with his lawyer, a nervous-looking young man named Todd Brewster who kept shuffling papers. Monica sat behind Richard, perfectly dressed as always. Designer blouse, pearl earrings, the picture of respectability. She didn't look at me. Richard didn't either. Judge Maria Martinez entered, a woman in her late 50s with sharp eyes and a reputation for not tolerating nonsense. Case number 2023CV4782, Eleanor Wright versus Richard Wright and Monica Wright. Petition for restraining order. Counselors, are we ready? Patricia stood. Ready, Your Honor. Todd stood. Ready, Your Honor. Ms. Donovan, this is your petition. Please proceed. Patricia began. Your Honor, my client Eleanor Wright is a 68-year-old widow who has been systematically financially abused, manipulated, and threatened by her son Richard Wright and daughter-in-law Monica Wright over a period of 3 years, culminating in an attempted illegal confinement scheme. Richard's lawyer shot up. Objection, that's inflammatory. I'm going to allow it, Judge Martinez said. Continue, Ms. Donovan. Patricia presented the evidence methodically. First, the bank statements showing $547,830 stolen over 3 years. Judge Martinez's eyebrows rose. Second, the false pretenses. Every withdrawal documented with what Richard claimed versus what he actually spent it on. Your Honor, Patricia said, the defendant told his mother he needed $12,000 for home repairs. He actually spent $8,200 at Tiffany & Company and $3,800 at Nordstrom. He told her he needed $30,000 for an investment property down payment. He actually spent it on a kitchen remodel and a Tahiti vacation. Third, the photographs of Richard with Vanessa Palmer. The defendant used $83,000 of his mother's money to purchase a condominium for his mistress at 2847 Harborview Drive, Unit 12C. Monica's head snapped toward Richard. I saw her face go white. She hadn't known. Fourth, the text messages between Monica and George Chen. Patricia read them aloud. Get her declared incompetent. I know a doctor who'll sign off for $5,000. Once she's in the nursing home, you file for guardianship. Judge Martinez leaned forward. Ms. Donovan, do you have the original messages? Yes, Your Honor. Phone records subpoenaed through discovery. Authenticated by our forensic expert. Fifth, the documentation about Legacy Gardens. Your Honor, this facility is not a standard assisted living community. It's a memory care lockdown unit for severe dementia patients. Residents cannot leave without guardian permission. The defendants plan to have Mrs. Wright involuntarily committed to this facility despite her having no cognitive impairment whatsoever. Patricia presented my recent psychological evaluation. Dr. Harold Chen, a board-certified neuropsychologist, evaluated Mrs. Wright on December 8th. His finding: patient demonstrates superior cognitive function for her age, with no signs of dementia, memory impairment, or diminished capacity. Judge Martinez looked at Richard. Mr. Brewster, I'm going to hear your client's response, but I'll tell you right now, this evidence is deeply concerning. Todd stood looking pale. Your Honor, my client denies these allegations. Mr. Wright had authorized access to his mother's accounts. Any withdrawals were made with her verbal permission. Verbal permission to buy a condo for his mistress? Judge Martinez's voice was ice. Your Honor, the relationship with Ms. Palmer that's a separate matter. It doesn't negate the fact that Mrs. Wright gave permission. Do you have documentation of this permission? Well, no, Your Honor, but then it's theft. What about the text messages regarding involuntary commitment? Those messages were taken out of context. Mrs. Chen was simply concerned about her mother-in-law's welfare. By planning to lock her in a memory care facility? Judge Martinez shook her head. Mr. Brewster, does your client wish to testify? Todd whispered to Richard. Richard shook his head. No, Your Honor. Mrs. Wright, would you like to testify? Patricia nodded to me. I stood. The bailiff swore me in. I sat in the witness box and faced the judge. Mrs. Wright, Judge Martinez said gently, tell me in your own words what happened on Thanksgiving. I took a breath. On Thanksgiving evening, my daughter-in-law Monica stood up in front of 17 family members and guests. She announced that I was paranoid and inappropriate and needed professional care. She said they'd found an assisted living facility. She gave me 72 hours to pack and leave. How did you respond? I said okay. Why? Because I'd learned not to argue with them. Every time I questioned anything, where my documents went, why money was missing, why I couldn't see my grandchildren, I was told I was confused, paranoid, that my memory was failing. It was easier to agree than to be told I was crazy. Did you know at that time that they'd stolen over $500,000 from you? No, Your Honor. I thought I had about $113,000 total. That's what my son told me I had. I believed him because he was my son. My voice cracked on that last word. Judge Martinez waited. When did you discover the truth? After I left their house. I found a bank card my late husband had hidden for me. When I went to the bank, I learned he'd protected me. He'd set up accounts they didn't know about. And he'd left me a letter warning me this would happen. Your husband anticipated this? Yes, he saw it before I did. He tried to tell me. I didn't want to believe my son could. I stopped. Take your time, Mrs. Wright. I gathered myself. Thomas, my husband, he saw that Richard was entitled, that he expected everything without earning anything, that Monica was calculating. He tried to protect me, and when I finally looked at the accounts Richard did have access to, I saw what he'd done. How did that make you feel? Betrayed, devastated, but also angry, because I'd given Richard everything. I paid for his education, his car, his house down payment, his children's private school. I gave him $12,000 a month for 9 years because he needed time to find himself. And he repaid me by stealing, by lying, by planning to lock me away. Did you ever give him permission to take $547,830? Never. Did you know he had a mistress he was supporting with your money? I had no idea until the private investigator showed me. Did you know about the plan to have you committed to a memory care facility? Not until I saw the text messages. Judge Martinez looked at me for a long moment. Mrs. Wright, what do you want from this court? I want them to stay away from me. I want my money returned, and I want to make sure they can never do this to anyone else. Thank you, Mrs. Wright. You may step down. I returned to my seat. Judge Martinez shuffled papers, read something, then looked up. I'm granting the restraining order. Richard Wright and Monica Wright are to have no contact with Eleanor Wright. They are prohibited from coming within 500 feet of her residence, workplace, or known locations. This order is effective immediately and will remain in place for 1 year, subject to review. Richard's face went red. Furthermore, Judge Martinez continued, I'm ordering both defendants to appear before this court on January 15th for a hearing regarding restitution of funds. Miss Wright, your attorney will file the appropriate civil suit? Yes, Your Honor, Patricia said. Good. Mr. Brewster, advise your clients that I'm forwarding this case file to the district attorney's office for review of potential criminal charges. The evidence of elder financial abuse is substantial. Your Honor, Todd stood. We're done here. Bailiff, please provide Mrs. Wright with certified copies of this order. The gavel came down. Richard stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. Mom! Mr. Wright! Judge Martinez's voice cracked like a whip. Do not approach the petitioner. Do you understand? Richard froze. For the first time, he looked at me. I saw confusion in his eyes, anger, disbelief, but no remorse. Monica grabbed his arm. Richard, we're leaving. Now. They walked out. I sat there, breathing carefully. Eleanor, Patricia said quietly, you did beautifully. I feel sick. That's normal. You just went to war against your own son. Did I do the right thing? Patricia looked at me seriously. A woman who steals from you is a thief. A son who steals from you is still a thief. You absolutely did the right thing. January 15th, 2024. The civil hearing for restitution. Richard and Monica appeared with a new lawyer, Stephen Garrett of Garrett & Associates, expensive suits and slicked-back hair. Patricia laid out the case again, this time with even more documentation. The forensic accountant testified. Over a 3-year period, Richard Wright withdrew $547,830 from accounts belonging to Eleanor Wright. Of that amount, approximately $83,000 went to purchasing real property for a third party, $127,000 to luxury goods and services for Monica Wright, $214,000 to travel and entertainment, and $123,830 to various personal expenses. None of these withdrawals were authorized in writing. Stephen Garrett tried to argue. Your Honor, Mrs. Wright had made Richard a joint account holder and signatory. Everything he did was technically legal. Technically legal and morally right are not the same thing, Judge Martinez said. Joint access doesn't mean carte blanche to steal. Continue, Ms. Donovan. Patricia showed the text messages again, the photos of Richard with Vanessa, the receipts showing what he'd really spent money on versus what he'd claimed. Then she presented something new. Your Honor, we've also discovered that in November 2023, Richard Wright attempted to take out a $1.2 million mortgage against property at 847 Maple Ridge Road, a property solely owned by Eleanor Wright through a family trust. He tried to mortgage her house? Yes, Your Honor. The application was denied because he's not on the title, but he forged Mrs. Wright's signature on the initial application. Judge Martinez turned to Richard. Mr. Wright, did you forge your mother's signature? Stephen whispered to Richard. On advice of counsel, I declined to answer. That's your Fifth Amendment right, but in a civil proceeding, I can draw negative inferences from your silence. Judge Martinez made a note. The hearing lasted 4 hours. At the end, Judge Martinez delivered her ruling. Richard Wright and Monica Wright are jointly and severally liable for restitution to Eleanor Wright in the amount of $547,830, plus interest calculated at 7% annually from the date of each fraudulent withdrawal. Additionally, I'm awarding Eleanor Wright attorney's fees in the amount of $45,000 and costs of $12,000. Your Honor, Stephen Garrett stood. My clients don't have that kind of money. Then they'll sell assets. The condo at 2847 Harborview Drive, for instance. I'm ordering it seized and sold with proceeds going to Mrs. Wright. If that's insufficient, they'll liquidate other assets. I'm giving them 90 days to pay the full amount or face contempt charges. She looked directly at Richard. Mr. Wright, you stole from your mother. You exploited her grief. You planned to imprison her. The only reason you're not in jail right now is because the DA is still deciding whether to file criminal charges. I suggest you count your blessings, pay what you owe, and spend the rest of your life trying to become a better person. The gavel came down. Richard and Monica had to sell. The condo he'd bought for Vanessa, $285,000 after mortgage payoff. Monica's jewelry collection, $43,000. Richard's BMW, $38,000. Their timeshare in Hilton Head, $31,000. They took out a home equity loan against their house for the remaining balance. Within 90 days, I received a check for $604,830, the full restitution plus interest, fees, and costs. I deposited it into Thomas's protected account. The district attorney filed criminal charges on February 28, 2024, against Richard, elder financial abuse, felony, fraud, felony, forgery, felony. Against Monica, conspiracy to commit elder abuse, felony. Attempted illegal confinement, felony. Against George Chen, conspiracy to commit fraud, felony. Violation of parole. Richard and Monica pled guilty to reduced charges in May 2024 to avoid trial. Sentences. Richard, 18 months in prison, 5 years probation, 500 hours community service. Monica, 12 months in prison, 5 years probation, 500 hours community service. George, 3 years in prison, parole violation plus new charges. I didn't attend the sentencing. Patricia called me with the news. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Empty," I said honestly. "That's normal. Justice doesn't always feel good." "Will it ever feel like I did the right thing?" "Yes, eventually, when you're living your life freely and they can't hurt you anymore." 6 months later, I bought a small house. Not a mansion, not a showpiece. Just a comfortable 3-bedroom cottage in a quiet neighborhood, with a garden and a porch swing and room for my grandchildren if they ever wanted to visit. I paid $340,000 cash. I furnished it simply, some new pieces, some antiques, nothing ostentatious. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt at home. I woke up when I wanted, drank coffee on my porch, tended my garden, read books Thomas and I had always meant to read together. I hired a financial advisor to manage Thomas's protected accounts, the $2.8 million he'd saved for me. We set up a charitable trust for elder abuse prevention, $500,000, a college fund for Danny and Valerie, $200,000 each, accessible at age 25, an investment portfolio, $1,500,000, living expenses, $400,000 in accessible accounts. I started volunteering at a women's shelter, teaching financial literacy classes. Know your accounts, I'd tell them. Know your assets. Keep your own money. Don't let love make you blind. I'd tell them my story, not for pity, but as a warning. One Tuesday in September, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Monica standing there. She'd lost weight. Her expensive clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a plain blouse. No makeup, hair pulled back simply. "Mother Eleanor," she said quietly, "I know I'm not supposed to be here. I know about the restraining order, but I needed to say something." I should have called the police. Instead, I said, "You have 5 minutes." She stood on my porch, not coming in. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry. I was greedy. I was cruel. I convinced myself you'd never worked, that you didn't deserve everything Thomas left you. I told myself we needed it more. But the truth is, I was just a selfish, horrible person. Why are you telling me this?" "Because I did 9 months in prison. 9 months to think about what I'd done. And I realized I destroyed my family for money, for things, for a life that wasn't even real." "Where are the children?" "With Richard's friend Marcus. I get supervised visitation twice a week. I'm working at a grocery store, renting a studio apartment, trying to—" She stopped. "Trying to become someone I'm not ashamed of." "And Richard?" "He's still in prison. He gets out in 3 months. I filed for divorce." I didn't feel satisfaction hearing that, just sadness. "Monica, I accept your apology, but I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I understand. However," I said carefully, "I did set up college funds for Danny and Valerie. They'll have access when they turn 25, because they're innocent in all this." Monica's eyes filled with tears. "You did?" "Yes. $200,000 each, on the condition that they finish college and stay out of legal trouble." "Mother Eleanor, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for them, because they deserve a chance to be better than their parents." Monica nodded, wiping her eyes. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Anything. Did you ever actually care about me? Or was it always about the money?" She was quiet for a long moment. "At first I did care. When Richard and I were dating, you were kind to me. You welcomed me. But then, somewhere along the way, the kindness felt like judgment. Like you were measuring whether I was good enough, and I got defensive. And defensive turned into resentful, and resentful turned into greedy, and by the end, I'd convinced myself you were the enemy. I never judged you, Monica. I know that now." We stood there in silence. Your 5 minutes are up, I said gently. Thank you for not calling the police. Don't come back. If you need to contact me about the children, go through Patricia. I will. She turned to leave, then stopped. Mother Eleanor, Richard told me something once. He said you never worked, that you were just a housewife who got lucky marrying a rich man. But I know that's not true. I saw the business documents during the court case. You built that company as much as Thomas did. Yes, I did. I'm sorry I believed Richard's lies. I'm sorry I helped him spread them. So am I. She walked away. I watched her get into an old Honda, drive away, and I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, but maybe the possibility of peace. 1 year later, November 15th, 2024, 3 years since Thomas died, I visited his grave that morning, bringing fresh flowers, white roses, his favorite. Hi, darling, I said, sitting on the bench beside his headstone. I have news. I told him about the house, about the charity, about the college funds for the grandkids. Richard got out of prison last month. He's living in a halfway house, hasn't contacted me. I don't know if he ever will. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees. Monica came by once, apologized. I didn't forgive her, but I didn't hate her either. Isn't that strange? After everything, I just feel tired of hating. I traced Thomas's name on the headstone. Danny and Valerie turned 11 and 9. I sent them birthday presents through Marcus. I don't know if they'll ever want to see me again, but the door's open when they're ready. A bird sang somewhere nearby. I'm okay, Thomas. I'm actually okay. The money you saved, it gave me freedom. The documents you left, they gave me power. But the real gift was knowing you saw me, really saw me. Not as Richard's mother, not as the company wife, but as Eleanor, your partner, your equal. I stood, kissed my fingers, pressed them to his name. I'm living the life we always talked about. Quiet mornings, good books, a garden, peace. You gave me that. Even after you were gone, you gave me that. Thank you, my love. I drove home to my little cottage, made coffee, sat on my porch swing, watched the November sun filter through the oak trees, and I thought about everything I'd learned. I'm Eleanor Margaret Wright, and I'm 69 years old. If someone had told me 2 years ago that I'd take my own son to court, I would have said they were crazy. If someone had told me I'd choose my dignity over my family, I would have said it was impossible. But here's what I learned. Family is not defined by blood. Family is defined by respect, by honesty, by people who see your worth and honor it. Richard was my son, but he stopped being my family the moment he chose greed over love. You are never too old to start over. At 68, I walked out of a house where I was treated like a burden. I found my strength. I built a new life. I discovered I was capable of things I'd never imagined. Dignity matters more than keeping the peace. For years, I stayed quiet. I accepted bad treatment because I didn't want to cause problems. I let Richard take and take and take because I loved him. But love without boundaries isn't love. It's self-destruction. The quietest victories are often the most powerful. I didn't get revenge. I got justice. I didn't destroy Richard. His own actions did that. I simply stopped protecting him from the consequences of his choices. And in doing that, I saved myself. Money isn't everything, but financial independence is freedom. Thomas knew that. That's why he protected assets I didn't even know existed. Because he understood that money equals power. And powerful people can't be exploited. It's okay to grieve what could have been while accepting what is. I grieve the son I thought I had, the family I wanted, the relationship with my grandchildren that may never be. But I accept the reality. Richard chose his path. Monica chose hers. And I chose mine. And I don't regret it. It's a Wednesday afternoon in November. I'm in my garden planting tulip bulbs for spring. My phone rings. Unknown number. I almost don't answer. But something makes me pick up. Hello? Grandma? My heart stops. Danny? Yeah, it's me. Uncle Marcus gave me your number. He said it was okay to call if I wanted to. I sit down on my garden bench, dirt-stained gloves still on. Of course it's okay. Sweetheart, how are you? I'm okay. We're living with Uncle Marcus now, me and Valerie, while Mom and Dad. Figure things out. I know. I'm glad you're somewhere safe. Silence. Grandma? Yes, honey? I'm sorry we stopped talking to you. Mom told us you were mean, that you didn't want to see us, but then Uncle Marcus showed us the court papers and the presents you sent, and I don't think Mom was telling the truth. Tears streamed down my face. Your mom was going through a difficult time, Danny. Sometimes adults make mistakes. Really big mistakes. Yes, really big mistakes. Can Valerie and I come visit you sometime? Oh, sweetheart. Yes, anytime you want. This weekend? This weekend would be perfect. Okay, Uncle Marcus will bring us. Is 2 p.m. okay? It's wonderful. Grandma? Yes? I missed you. I missed you too, Danny. So much. After we hang up, I sit in my garden crying. Not from sadness, from hope. Because sometimes the story doesn't end where you think it will. Sometimes after everything breaks, there's room to build something new. Something smaller, maybe, but truer and stronger. That Saturday, I make cookies, the chocolate chip ones Danny loves. I set up the guest room with books and games. I wait on my porch swing. At 2:03 p.m., Marcus's car pulls up. 2 children tumble out, bigger than I remember, older, but still my grandchildren. Grandma! Valerie runs to me. I hug her tight, breathing in the smell of her hair, feeling her small arms around my waist. Danny follows more slowly, uncertain. I hold out my hand. He takes it. Welcome home, I say. We go inside. We eat cookies. We talk carefully at first, then easier. They don't ask about their parents. They don't ask about the court case. They just ask if they can come back next Saturday. I say yes. I'm Eleanor Margaret Wright. I'm 69 years old. I lost my husband. I lost my son. I lost years of my life to people who saw me as nothing more than a bank account. But I found myself. I found my strength. I found my voice. And I found peace. Not the peace of a perfect ending, but the peace of knowing I honored myself. I protected myself. I chose dignity over comfort. And in the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The sun is setting over my garden. My grandchildren are laughing in the living room. Coffee's brewing in the kitchen. This is my life now. Small, simple, true. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt underestimated because of your age, if you've ever had to choose between family and dignity, you're not alone. Know your worth. Protect your assets. Trust your instincts. And remember, it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to fight back. It's never too late to choose yourself.